What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Dad Planet. Brendan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. I have another What's Sold on eBay video coming to you from the second week in February. So I'm covering February 8th through the 14th, and I only feature 15 bolos in this video. I don't cover every single sale I did for the week, or these things would go on forever and you guys would get sick of me really quickly. So I picked the 15 most interesting. Sometimes it's the highest priced ones, sometimes it's the highest margin. You know, I'll feature a little bit of bread and butter in this one too, because that's the kind of thing that keeps the wheels turning. But it was a great week of sales, and I'm doing better this February than I did last February and February's past, so I really cannot complain. But yeah, 15 bolos, very exciting. Hopefully you find these when you are in stores as well, or wherever it is you do your sourcing. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Alrighty then, almost 2,300 in gross sales, and then 1,500 net, and then get my selling costs, even offering shipping, still coming down at 26%, just under $600. That's lovely. My average sales price seems to be really consistent this year, it's hovering around $60, $61.41, as you can see over the same period last year, up way up, and up 12% total sales from last February, which is lovely. I had 37 total buyers or 37 total sales, and we are going to take a look at 15 of those bad boys right now. We're going to kick it off with Team Umizoomi, a Nickelodeon favorite, one of the favorites in my household. This bad boy sold for $139.99. Now, if you follow me on Instagram, you saw that when I sourced it, I posted it on Instagram. Feel free to follow me on Instagram if you like. I'm not as active as I am on YouTube, but the Umirific Umi car sold for $139.99. In fact, the buyer is $162.75 all in. It only cost me $3.99. And while you may not find this in brand new condition, you have to look for it in used condition as well, because especially with Millie, Bot, and Geo together with the car, you're still gonna get $25 to $30. As it stands, I got $140 for this. This was an incredible find at a very late time of day at a Goodwill. I'm happy I took that trip, and that bad boy is sold. Guys and gals, I cannot stress enough, research and do comparables for every big pony Ralph Lauren that you find in the stores. I found this at the bins, so let's call it 70 cents. And I sold it for $20. I mean, this is a huge margin, a great return on an item that I know eventually is going to sell to the right buyer. And I priced it, I think, fairly. So $19.99, this buyer is $25.70 all in after shipping and tax. But this is the stuff that butters my bread. And you folks that have been following me, you hear me say it often. These are the sales that really make the business run. It's not always the sexy ones like you see in this video. So every now and then I want to put in a bread and butter sale just to illustrate that they are just as important as the big dollar ones. But black t-shirt, big pony, definitely a bolo. Keep your eye out for it. You know what? This is criminally underpriced. Not only that, in my business, I would rather get something done than get it done perfect. And this is a great example of that. I took pictures in a really bad spot at a really bad time. It might have been early, like the hue is just not, it's just not working. It was probably inclement downside, and I probably should have used a brighter room, but all in all, I got $25.49 for this vintage LL Bean goose down women's vest. It was in fine condition, but really the comps are like, could be almost double the price I got for this one, depending on what color you have. But I'm $38.93 all in after shipping and tax, and it only cost me $4.99. But again, I'd rather get it done than get it done perfect. And this is one of those ones where maybe I had to give up a little bit of money just because pictures weren't great. It is what it is, but it's sold. Vintage LL Bean puffer vests, look for them. They are also a very good bolo. All right, this is a pair of Doc Martens Vintage 101, smooth black leather ankle boots. They were pretty large at a size 14, and they were behind the counter at a Goodwill. And so when I was checking out, I noticed them, and I asked the gentleman or the lady at the time to bring them over, let me take a look at them, had them marked $19.99. I picked them up at that price, waited, and eventually sold them for full price, $99.99. This buyer is $122.84 all in after shipping and tax. This is not a style that you're going to see in the US as often as you would some other Doc Marten styles. I feel like maybe this came from overseas. I'm not entirely sure, but as it stands, if you find it, and maybe in like a smaller size, 10, 11, 12, it would sell a little bit quicker, but I like size 14, and these looked amazing. They were in excellent condition. So Doc Martens, not every Doc Marten is a bolo. This style though, you want to keep your eye out for it. All right, if you look at this, I have glove trail. It's actually backwards. These are Merrell trail glove running shoes, and I have to tell you, if you look for comparable sales the last 3 months, It's not going to look like a ton of them sold, but now is the time to get them listed because this is a bolo and they do sell year round. So keep your eye out for it. This color was smoke gray and orange. I feel like everything I buy that's orange sells. I don't know what it is. I got $25.49 for these as well. This buyer is $39.27 all in after shipping and tax. I found these at the bins. They were in average condition, like average to good condition. They needed a little bit of cleaning up since they did come from the bins. So they only cost me a couple of bucks, but I always know to look for them. And honestly, Merrell has been doing really, really well for me as a whole brand. So keep your eye out for it, but it's Trail Glove, the ones you want to look for right here. Amazingly, I found this coat at the bins as well. So this is an Eddie Bauer Sun Valley Down Parka. It was in fantastic condition. Now I have to warn you, even though this sold, I got a return request from a gentleman who said he bought this for his wife and it didn't fit. So I'm probably going to get this back and I'm going to have to refund him and relist it, which is not a problem because I know it's going to sell eventually, even though we're getting late into the winter season and we're starting to approach March. But I have a question for you. Like, is this okay for a spouse to order the wrong size for the other spouse? I don't know how I feel about that. Like, shouldn't you know that size ahead of time? I don't know. I'm not making any assumptions, but I'd love to know what your opinion is on that. At any rate, it sold for full price when it sold for $85, and the buyer is $122.66 all in after shipping and tax. Maybe $3-4 because it was a little bit heavier, and you pay by the pound at the Goodwill bins. But a great find, and just keep in mind I might have to sell this again. This is not the first time that I've sold this style Brookstone towel warmer. So the model number is 647156, and I did get full price for it for $70. The buyer is $125.63 all in after shipping and tax. It cost me $4.99 at a thrift store, but I will warn you, there are certain things that ship easy that are made of plastic and certain things that are not. So you have to be careful with these towel warmers because I feel like the plastic on them is very fragile. So you're definitely going to want to use bubble wrap. I suggest you use the thick bubble wrap when you're shipping this, whereas it's really easy for me to throw, say, like a golf bag that's like really well made into a box with no bubble wrap and ship it. You can't really do that with an item like this because it's delicate and it's sort of fragile. So that shouldn't discourage you from listing it and selling it, but just be warned, like, you're going to want to wrap this a little bit because they really are just kind of delicate. As it stands, this is a fantastic sale. Again, probably the third or the fourth one that I've sold. Continue to look for them. They make a smaller version Brookstone towel warmer, but this one is the one that's going to get you anywhere from $70 to $80 if you price it like I did. Vintage lighted motion mirrors. These are also a bolo. I sell every single one that I find and bring home. So this one only cost me $3.99. And the reason it only cost me $3.99 is because it had a little chip at the top. And so again, even with the flaw, as long as it's working perfectly, don't let that discourage you from making a purchase. So I think they had it priced low because of that, but I got it, tested it, everything worked. The motions, the sounds, the lights, it all worked. And the style on this one was sort of like a tiki hut, palm trees, like right on the edge of the ocean, very vacation resort related. And I got $80 for this. So this buyer is $99.49 all in after shipping and tax. Again, one of those things you want to be careful when you ship as well. But even with the chip in the top corner, that did not deter this buyer. So don't let it deter you from sourcing it. Just make sure that all of the functions work properly. There's a little gauge in the middle that spins, and that's what gives the waves their motion movement. So look for that, make sure that that's working properly. And if it does, this thing was only like maybe 20 inches wide. It wasn't one of the larger ones, although in the past, if you've been following me for long enough, you have seen that I've sold the big mammoth ones that go 24, 30 inches, the really large ones. I've shipped those as well. So I'm not afraid to ship big items, and you guys should not be afraid to ship these vintage motion mirrors as well. All right, Ray Dunn, heavily mass produced these days, with the exception of some of the earlier, more rare canisters and mugs and things of that nature. This canister set, the dragonfly, the ladybug, and the bee, sold for me for full price for $85. This buyer is $119.74 all in after shipping and tax. I think this may have gone overseas. I don't quite remember. These were either $3 or $4 each for me, so $9 to $12 was my cost. But it's the M Studios stamp on the bottom of each of them that you want to look for. And I think the M represents magenta, although I'm not 100% sure, making this one of the harder to find or one of the older canister sets. And because of that, it is a little bit more in demand than some of the newer, way more mass-produced stuff. So if you see these three together, and there was a little bit like a very small chip on the interior top of one of the lids, no problem, still sold for full price. I'm super happy with that sale because a lot of Ray Dunn is just not worth anything this day and age, but M Studios is what you want to look for. And so if you see this canister set specifically, grab them. Anytime I see a pair of buckle pants, I look them up. These are a lot of styles that I'm still not familiar with. So buckle BKE, this one was a skinny fit number 53. Now, is it a bolo? You're really going to have to look them up because I feel like the prices fluctuated in comparable solds. Anywhere from like $10 to $15 up to $30. It really just depends. So I'm going to be on the high end when I can, and this is no exception here. So these were $26.31, and this buyer is $49.64 all in after shipping and tax. I bought these before the pants price hike, so they're now $6.99, but I think I paid $4.99 for these. So buckle BKE, just make it a habit of looking that brand up because there's a lot of money in it. It still sells pretty well. And fit number 53 is another one that you probably want to look for. But again, prices fluctuate, so you really just have to do your due diligence. You're going to see me sell a ton of Nike Shox. You're also going to see me sell a ton of wrestling shoes. Here is yet another pair of wrestling shoes that sat for a while, but I eventually got full price for them. It's list and forget for me. So this is the Dan Gable Ultimate 3 wrestling shoes. The colorway is the more desirable, or at least the higher priced version, with gray and blue. These were a size 10. The style number is J503Y. I got $70 for them. The buyer is $85.69 all in after shipping and tax. These cost me $4.29. And yet another sale that I'm extremely happy with. Make it a habit, just like you should make it a habit to look up every BKE buckle pant. You should make it a habit to look up every single wrestling shoe. So here's yet another example of a great sale for me. Not the highest I've ever sold for wrestling shoes, but certainly a great sale that I'm happy with. As I was sourcing one day at a Goodwill, one of the cart runners walked up to me and handed this to me and said, "Hey, do you have any idea what this is?" Looking at it, I had no clue. So I did what I normally do and got my phone out and then discovered that it is a knife block for the brand Edge of Belgravia. Very geometric looking, and I didn't think anything of it at the time. So we identified it, and she was really just asking me because she didn't know what shelf to put it on. So we identified it, she put it away, and then maybe a couple minutes later, I went back and ran actual sold comps for it and realized, you know what, this is probably a bolo. Like, this looks like it has some sales velocity to it. Let's grab it. So for $3.99, I picked it up and I sold it for $24.99. It is definitely a bolo. These are is a really neat knife set. I couldn't find the knives, but I was happy to at least source and sell this. Just another new item for me, something that you folks should also keep a lookout for. This buyer is $43.03 all in after shipping and tax. Really neat looking, but hey, if you can get the knives to go with it, you have a real bolo on your hands. As it stands, the knife blocks themselves, great bolo. Same shopping trip as the knife block, I found this clock. So this is a Melodies in Motion clock by Seiko. It worked perfect. You just hit a little button on the bottom of it and it plays like 8 different songs, anywhere from like the Beatles to John Lennon, Imagine. Like, it had a bunch of different ones, and there are lots of iterations of Melodies in Motion clocks. So thankfully this thing worked excellent. I took it home, ran video on it to make sure all 8 songs worked as they should, and this thing sold for $199.99. This buyer is $230.93 all in after shipping and tax. It was priced $14.99 for me, so again, a no-brainer in store, and it's not even the most expensive Melodies in Motion clock. So you'll see some of these sell upwards of $300. If you're lucky enough to source them, grab them. You may even be able to sell it for parts if it's not working properly, but if you get one that's working properly, $200, maybe even $300. This was a great find. Okay, we're not going to blow anyone away with a pair of slides that sold on eBay, but there's a couple of things at play here. First, I was able to get $24.99 for these, but this buyer is $71.49 all in after shipping and tax because it went overseas. So not only were they okay paying shipping charges, they paid custom fees. They really wanted this pair. And this is probably the 3rd, 4th, 5th in the last 2 months pair of slides that I've sent overseas. So not only are they in demand here in America, they're in demand internationally as well. So source them at all costs. I found these at the bins. What are they, 75 cents to me? To sell them for $25, that's again a huge margin and just the type of thing I like to source when I'm paying by the pound. So Benassi Solar Soft, that's what you want to look for. The style number here, 312618, and then the colorway code 001, usually just black, but this has a little bit of gray in it. Keep your eye out for Nike slides, especially if you are shopping for them at the bins. If you can get them in the retail stores for a couple of bucks, go for it too, because you're going to sell variations of slides all day long for $20. I just happen to price these on the higher end because I know how much of a demand there is for them, and you have an even bigger market if you're willing to ship them internationally. In 1977, Pizza Time Theater was born. Actually, in 1977, I was also born. But anyway, it went from Pizza Time Theater all the way up to about 1984 to 1985, where it turned into Showbiz Pizza. There was a merger between the two brands. And then from there, it turned into the brand that we now know and love, Chuck E. Cheese. But this Chuck E. Cheese plush has a Pizza Time Theater tag on it. And based on the style of plush that you're looking at, the yellow vest, the bowling hat, the very long snout, and then the hard little button nose, I pinned this to be anywhere from 1977 to 1979, making it one of, if not the oldest, Chuck E. Cheese plush dolls of Chucky himself. So I priced it high, and I eventually sold it probably within 3 or 4 days for full asking price of $250. This was found in the bins, so it may have cost me 50 cents. But this buyer is $276.73 all in after shipping and tax. And because of its age and because of the price, it's not the most expensive Chuck E. Cheese plush to have ever sold, but I believe it's one of, if not the highest priced plush for Chucky himself. I couldn't find a sale in the last year or two that was anywhere near this price for Chucky. So I think I may have just sold this Chuck E. Cheese plush for the most money that has ever been paid for Chuck himself. Pretty amazing find. I cannot believe that sale. Super happy with it. 15 more bolos in the books. I hope you folks enjoyed. And that is your reminder to source Chuck E. Cheese plush, especially the old stuff. Pizza Time Theater, Showbiz Pizza, Chuck E. Cheese, get it in. Brendan here, Dad Planet. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And of course, a friendly reminder as always, leave a like if you learned something or you like what you saw, and then always consider becoming a member of the Dad Planet family by subscribing. That's free to you and it helps me out considerably. But that's it. That's all I got for you. I am done talking. I'm out of here. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we will see you in the next video.